So, when I returned from my sabbatical, there were folks who were asking me what was my favorite place, what was my favorite site, were there things that stood out to me? And, I thought about it a lot, and there were just so many. It's really hard to narrow it down to really what my favorites were. But I did feel like there were a few moments that I had that really stood out to me as like aha moment or these aha sites. The first one was probably when I went down into the salt mines of Wielice in Poland. That was just spectacular. I remember that as being one of those spectacular scenes. I also remember the morning that we got up in Zermatt and I walked outside and I saw the Matterhorn, and it was just this remarkable, amazing sight, one that I could never imagine. And then there was also the day that Melanie and I went and we visited the Neuschwanstein Castle in Germany. And that too, just the sight of that castle was just so incredible. It just blew my mind at how beautiful that setting was, how beautiful that castle was. So the thing that's interesting about that is when I did these, when I had these experiences, a couple times I had tour guides, and those tour guides were kind of telling us about how those things were made, especially like when we went down into the mine. I mean, they told us about the miners and how they took time to carve out these statues out of stone as ways to protect them, and built these great chapels down in the earth to remind them of the places or the presence of God in the midst of times that for them was very scary. And then when we saw the Neuschwanstein Castle, the tour guide talked about King Ludwig II, and how this was really his vision. This castle was his vision, a place that he wanted, and he built this almost essentially for himself. But they talked about all the way he was careful about laying out the rooms and making sure that there were places that he could be and see all the beauty around him. And as we talked about that, I thought, it was so interesting to hear about the people who carved out that salt mine and the man who envisioned this great castle. But what was interesting was when we visited the Matterhorn, we didn't have those conversations, right? I mean, who made the Matterhorn? How was that amazing rock formed? Well, I'm sure, we could talk about the wind that helped form that, and how the glaciers helped formed it, and how over time this is what formed it. But essentially, when it comes to something like that, we know who formed that. We know who made that natural wonder, and it is absolutely remarkable. So that reminded me, as I was thinking about that and looking through my pictures, it reminded me of a verse in Romans chapter 1, verse 20. And this verse says this: "Ever since the creation of the world, God's eternal power and divine nature, visible though they are, have been understood and seen through the things that he made." Let me read that one more time. Ever since the creation of the world, God's eternal power and the divine nature, invisible though they are, have been understood through the things God has made. That is a message, that is a verse that so describes my experience of standing and looking at that Mount Matterhorn. It gave us a vision of the one who created that thing. So I wonder, when you are out and about, maybe you're not seeing things exactly like that, but when you're out and about and you see a beautiful sunset, or you see a vast body of water, or you sit at night and you look up and you see the moon and the stars, when you're out hiking and you see the grandeur of a tree or a rock face on a mountain, what does that tell you about the one who created all things? God's care for creation, God's love for variety, God's power and majesty is seen in those things that God created. And in that, we can give thanks and praise.